Mm.
We are at week three of the war. While markets are still recovering, crypto is starting to shine. But if oil stays here or rises, central governments worldwide will have a serious problem.
Mm.
In this video, we'll cover what this means for the general population, how you can prepare yourself and stay ahead of the curve. Hello, everyone, and welcome back to Strategic Markets, your home for fundamental and technical analysis. First up on the docket that we have over here is the US warship that's currently heading straight to Iran, known as the USS Tripoli. It is a marine warship, and basically it's got capability to be amphibious, which means it can operate on sea functions, but is also very supportive with land functions. What they're planning on doing over here is they're basically sending this in to the Strait of Hormuz and setting up their operations on one of these land opportunities so that basically any missiles that are coming straight from Iran or any drones that are coming straight from Iran, they have ground assets set up to basically intercept that and open the Strait of Hormuz, which Trump is looking at possibly making it the Strait of America. I had no comment on that, but yeah, at least they will have those ground forces to be able to set up, open up the Strait of Hormuz, and possibly bring the price of oil down because oil is expensive right now. We are currently $104 a barrel. This is like right now, it's actually not dropping down as fast as I would like it to be. It's actually showing a reasonable amount of strength. If we do make a higher high, we are at reasonable trouble. But on the weekly, we possibly have some show of strength losing. So we'll just have to see how that goes. But right now, oil is holding up very well. In terms of oil for European jet fuel, now you have to understand that 40% of Europe's fuel comes through the Strait of Hormuz. So their prices has gone up above 70% this week, highest level since 2022. So you can see this is really affecting the people of the EU. What other news do we have really upcoming over here? Well, first of all, in 6 hours' time, we're going to have the rate cut information, whether that's going to go ahead or whether the rates are going to stay the same. Right now, 99% of people believe that their rates are not going to cut and they're going to stay the same, obviously, because inflation is a massive scare due to oil prices.
Mm.
But what Fed Jerome Powell has to say regarding the future has a lot riding on this particular market. And one market that we really look towards is Bitcoin. Bitcoin, I've been charting quite a fair bit. And although we are really happy for this green move upwards in the last couple of days, I'd call that like 8 to 12 days, it's been just straight away going up. I am a little bit worried because this is a downwards bearish flag. So it goes down, it flags out, falls down again, and flags out. Now, to me, in the past, these bearish flags, if you can see over here, they hit a point on the RSI over being overbought and then it drops down hard. And in that particular case, it really makes you question, wait a second, is that going to happen immediately right now? But to be honest, we actually haven't hit the oversold figure on the RSI daily over here yet. So I still have a little bit of hope. What's another thing I've been really watching is Bitcoin on the weekly. And although this bearish flag theory still has some merit on the weekly, you can see it's having a bit more of a V-shaped reversal kind of a thing happening over here. And then another thing I've been really following is the RSI. So you can see over here in the past when we have had RSI downtrends, the moment that we have a breakout, in this particular case, BTC went from 54K all the way to 97K. On this downtrend, BTC went all the way from 78K all the way up to 109K. We are another instance where we are in this downtrend, the RSI has broken out, and we are possibly having a move upwards. Another thing over here is this particular MACD, which can be flipping bullish anytime soon if we have an upwards momentum. But I still have worries to the downside because when I chart my monthly logarithmic line, you can see over here when I chart it to the candle's ends, particularly speaking, even though we've had a little bit of a touch point, I can still expect a candle closure or somewhere for us to touch 62K again to wick down to. And that all relies on Fed's discussion meeting, rate cuts, and how the market chooses to react. A lot will happen to that. In the past, we've also discussed Bitcoin's liquidation levels and heat maps. What is that showing right now? We have a lot of liquidity at the 70K to 65K region, which means there would be a lot of stop outs or possible stop gaps down below if we decide to go there. So it's something that I'm open to and something you should possibly have if you're setting up trades as well. Now, another thing from the bullish side, when we look at on-chain realized price, well, currently speaking, if we have broken through the 74 or 75K region, the next resistance line that we really have is around the 80 to 84K region over here, particularly 84.7K over here. And so in that particular case, if we had that upside, we could have an immediate move to this particular area, but we'll just have to wait and see. Now, particularly speaking, I think one big news event which all of us are following is the SEC says most crypto assets are actually not securities. This came out today, guys. So, including staking, airdrops, and Bitcoin mining, this is providing new regulatory clarity that no longer are these assets or securities. The reign of Gary Gensler has ended. And now, with our new US SEC commissioner, he's basically given that clarity ahead of the Congress Clarity Act that is currently being discussed in the markets, which basically is about regulating custodial exchanges, decentralized networks, and protecting the right to self-custody. That is still being discussed in Congress, but by the lawmakers, they have come out and said that, okay, we're just saying that tokenized stocks and bonds will be the only things that qualify as a security. Anything else is now considered a commodity, which is really good for the crypto markets and can really push us off. So when we come to the final points, what are our highlights? Well, we got SEC clarity today. We have a Clarity Act upcoming in Congress. We've got ETH staking ETF that came out last week from BlackRock. We have Kevin Warsh as the new Fed chair coming up in May, possibly being dovish on rate cuts. Lastly, we have the USS Tripoli coming in to set up ground support to combat Iran and open the Strait of Hormuz. If all of this comes into play, I am heavily bullish on what the outlook looks for risk on assets. And where do I look for risk on assets towards? Well, ETH BTC is what we have been tracking. This is Ethereum strength against Bitcoin. And you can just see over here that right now we are trying to set up a higher high. We'll just have to see whether that particularly goes through and we break through the 0.32 level. We're possibly setting up a MACD bull cross. And even on the RSI over here, if I bring that to the top, the RSI is just trying to break through this red line itself as well. And if that happens, we might actually have the all season we've all been waiting for. Lots of good news. On that, I'm going to pass it over to Steve for technical analysis.
Well, thank you very much for that, Yash, as always. And those bearish flags for Bitcoin are extremely interesting. We'll get on to Bitcoin shortly. But as you're saying, Brent Crude overall is really the big story overall. And we'll start off with Brent Crude to begin with. What I've done is I've also added in 4-hourly support and resistance lines in relation to the charts. And what you can really see is that we've actually had a bounce directly off the 4-hour support line, even over the last couple of days. And that 4-hour support line, particularly in recent times, is $100.90 on the Brent crude area. And that bounce has been reflected with both the unit price as well as the lagging indicator. So it's really, really fascinating. And one thing I've really noticed, even whilst you were just talking a few moments ago, is we've had some really big action around about the 7:30 mark over in New York time. It's currently 7:37 as we're talking, but look at the volume in terms of Brent crude. And we've had a really big, massive spike all of a sudden.
Mm.
Interestingly, as we've also been talking as well, we've also had a corresponding decrease in Bitcoin over that same period of time. And really fascinating as well, I've actually drawn in some 4-hour support lines in terms of Bitcoin as well prior to this presentation. And we've really had a look in terms of some of those levels there as well. I'll actually enlarge that so you can really see those lines. The 4-hour support resistance lines there as well. looking around about, say, 73,600, that area has just been broken over the last few minutes there as well. And we've had our major support resistance line here that we've been talking about of 73,100. That got broken over the last 10 minutes as well. There's also a few other support resistance lines as well to really take into consideration in terms of 72,200 as well as 71,300. Now, if these all get obliterated in terms of the Fed announcement as well, these are going to be areas that really support your thesis in terms of those bear flags. Because if that all gets basically destroyed, you can basically think of this area here, if we drew a line over these tops, as being where that bear flag was that you were basically discussing there. So it's really, really fascinating how all of
Mm.
them are aligning. But just when you take a look at that 5 minute chart, if I actually just enlarge that again, how that literally just got literally decimated
Oh yeah.
just over the last 10 minutes
The,
is really, really, truly incredible. How does this relate to to everything else we've basically been looking at though as well? Well, you can take a look at, I suppose, in terms of say like gold and a lot of the other areas there too. Has that been affected over the last few minutes as well? Actually, to tell you the truth, yes, it has. Gold's gone down
mm,
as well. Okay, so all of the other areas as well are starting to get affected as well in the grand scheme of things. We've got gold affected. It's actually still going down even as we speak. Silver also being affected even over the last couple of minutes there too. These are all going to be getting affected by something that's going on. We've had a quick look in terms of the news, in terms of anything that's being affected right now at this point in time. We can't see anything directly, but keep an eye on what's going on in terms of being released over the next few minutes, for instance, or even over the next couple of hours, because something is definitely happening. But we've got gold and we've got silver going on in terms of some major effects there as well. Be interesting to see what's happening with the dollar. The dollar in itself as well too. That seems to be on an increase. You can see that from the 725, 730 area as well. So that's actually rebounded from a fall that was going on over there as well. So overall, we're definitely seeing some effect of what's going on because previous to that on the daily chart for the dollar, we were actually starting to decline a little bit and normalize again. But that looks like now it's actually respecting those areas on the Ichimoku chart. So a lot is definitely happening. I'd be thinking overall now the volatility will more than likely start to increase again, especially as Brent crude is actually starting to increase once more again too. The bonds we were actually starting to see. I'm going to actually just switch that across to the moving averages, which is a bit clearer rather than the Ichimoku chart. We were starting to actually see some stabilization in the bonds. Chances are what will probably happen now is the bonds will actually start retreating back towards this support area here, and we may actually start seeing the yields going up again. And whether or not that will actually mean that we have the full confirmation that there will be no change in the actual interest rates as we expected from the Fed watch area. Um, whether that will actually be the case will more likely be the case. And as you can see, the bond yields will more than likely head back upwards as well to that area of where we were actually seeing before. How this will all relate in terms of, say, the actual indices as well. Well, that's going to be interesting in itself there too. We're still smack bang in relation to what circumstances are in terms of in between all of these moving averages. Got the declining short-term moving averages, obviously, as well as the long-term moving averages down beneath. And then got that for the Dow Jones as well as the Russell, in terms of all those aspects there as well. And then in terms of taking a look at the SPY, pretty much the same picture overall. In terms of the tech area, we've got this little bit of an area here where we feel seem as though we actually might be having a bit more strength compared to the other indices overall. So that's another area of interest in relation to the way things are looking. And that pretty much covers everything that we actually take a look at. So it's quite interesting when you take a look at all of these levels. Very, very similar in terms of the way we've been having a look at all of these aspects in terms of all of these levels. But really, in the grand scheme of things, when we take a look at all of these aspects in terms of long-term investing, short-term investing, all of the levels that we're basically looking at, now what the big catalyst is firstly Brent crude. Secondly, the Fed decision happening in only 6 hours. But what is this big catalyst that's going on in terms of the change that just occurred at 7:30 New York time? That's another aspect that's going on. So we've got all
Mm,
levels that are actually going on, all these changes that are happening very, very quickly and very, very swiftly. And as you can see, dynamics are changing very, very fast and very, very swiftly. So something's going on and everything's happening very, very quickly as well too. So make sure you know what levels you want to deal with and what's actually affecting change in accordance to any positions that you actually are having. With that, mate, I'm going to switch right back to you and you can lead off the change in terms of the conclusion.
absolutely. Thank you for that, Steve. At the end of the day, it's oil that's holding the reins for everything. While its price stays high, everyone else in terms of growth, even you can see that metals have been slowly yet relatively been affected. So until we have some clarity on the war and rates discussion that happen in the next couple of hours, or most likely already happened when this video is uploaded, it will show us a lot of conclusion. But until then, thank you for having a look through this video. If there's anything that you like, feel free to drop us a like, subscribe, or comment through anything we could do better or differently, or even something that you appreciate. Other than that, thank you for joining us for this one. We will see you in the next one.
Absolutely.